Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Let me be honest here from the get-go. I was gonna do a video talking about the fall of ROH and how Tony Khan is the reason ROH isn't where it used to be or isn't what it once was. But I took a step back because I thought, no, maybe it is unfair to constantly go at Tony Khan. After all, he did save this company. Some people say it didn't need saving. Some people say it needed saving. But he saved this company from redundancy, basically. So I thought, let me take a step back. Let me go to our faithful old Twitter/X and ask this very question. Question for those who have watched ROH throughout the years. Where exactly did it go wrong for them? Was it when Tony Khan purchased the company or before that? I got a ton of comments. This actually went quite viral for me anyway. 580k views. And a lot of people ended up responding to this tweet. Some good, some bad. Some people answered the genuine question, and some people just came for my neck. That's just how it is on Twitter. And this is the responses I got. The first one is from Cleare Wrestling. I lost interest prior. I think during COVID and the whole thing with Marty Scroll, we all know about the Marty Scroll thing, I just didn't want to watch. Plus, guys like Shane Taylor and Bandito were on their way up and are now not even close to that. This is interesting because he's saying it had nothing to do with Tony Khan. Like, the issue was before Tony Khan. And of course, the whole Marty Scroll speak out movement thing that happened, we all know about that. Marty Scroll had some allegations against him, and he was the hottest thing prior to these allegations. Let's not forget, Marty Scroll joining the Bullet Club, all of that, that was a huge moment on the indies. I'm not saying I was paying the most attention back then, but I definitely saw it, which says a lot. I think them losing a lot of momentum with Marty Scroll, having to do their investigations, having to find a new route on where they're going to go, I think that maybe put some people off the product, and it's clear that it did that for Cleare Wrestling. We then had Phil, who I have followed for a long time. I mean, way back in the day on TikTok and all of that. We've interacted here and there, nothing major, but Phil says, to me it was earlier. I can't name a time or place when downfall started. All I know is that Tony Khan helped the downfall continue. I've been an ROH fan for a long time, and it sucks seeing the downfall of the brand. At this point, I feel ROH should be used as AEW's developmental system to allow the underutilized developing talent to grow so that they can get up to Dynamite/Collision. This is really interesting because he says it was earlier, but Tony Khan hasn't piqued that interest either. And I can see why. I feel like because ROH is behind that heavy paywall, I say heavy because, to be quite frankly, WWE is the same price as far as I understand, or the network for those outside of America is the same price as ROH Club. So that paywall kind of hinders a lot of excitement and a lot of people seeing what is happening in the show. Yeah, it's really interesting. He says they should be used as a developmental. I think it is being used as that, but it's also used as a, we've got nothing for you, so go down there for a little bit. We've seen that Athena, we've seen that Mark Briscoe. Okay, Mark Briscoe is getting used both sides. Eddie Kingston, he's being used both sides, but also the likes of Athena. Athena should be on AEW. She's having the run of her life and arguably one of, if not the best women's wrestler right now, certainly from a level of her championship reign, but she should be on Dynamite or Collision. She really should be. There's people like we've just seen, this is a spoiler alert, but Sammy Guevara is now in ROH. I'm not sure why Sammy Guevara needs to go to ROH. I understand there's issues backstage, but Sammy Guevara is one of the four pillars at the end of the day. I think he should be in a better place than that. And then from a developmental standpoint, who have we really seen make the jump? Who have we really seen? Maybe Kyle Fletcher, but I'd argue Kyle Fletcher had his showing on Dynamite already before he went and did stuff in ROH. The ROH stuff was more just to develop him. I can't really think of names that have really been promoted from this ROH system to the Dynamite system. Let me know if you guys can think of names, because I might just be forgetting a couple names here. We then had a tweet from Nakajima, and these were one of the not so nice tweets. It wasn't Tony, you're just looking for anti-AEW engagement there. It was a combination of COVID and not building stars to replace the Bucks when they eventually moved on. Matt Taven wasn't the guy, but he was what they had and it didn't work. So this is a weird tweet because I'm looking for anti-AEW engagement, and then he goes on to provide a serious answer, which is all I wanted. it's all I wanted, because I didn't want to make a video slashing Tony Khan when it's not necessary. Anyway, I responded saying, I asked a genuine question from people who have watched the products for years. I wasn't looking for anti-AEW engagements. You guys know I will trash AEW when I want to. I will praise AEW when I want to. I'll trash WWE when I want to. I'll praise WWE when I want to. I'm not here to please anybody. I'm just here to talk wrestling. And to be honest, I don't even trash that much. I love wrestling. I enjoy wrestling. I don't even trash wrestling that much. I know people with way more harsh opinions than I have. But yeah, this guy was, I don't know. I don't know what he was trying to do here. But we move on. So Damien says, long before that, at one point, they were just behind TNA at number 2, to the point where they stopped sharing talent. Then they regrew again later on and squandered their momentum due to a lack of investment. NXT becoming a am I just being dumb? Anyway, spelled their end, and then AEW picked up what was left. So, look, this guy's saying they stopped sharing talent with TNA. I remember Samoa Joe was doing a little bit of back and forth. Then they grew again, but just lack of investment. And we know that lack of investment, there will be more tweets on that. Definitely was an issue. NXT also seemed to have taken a lot of the talent. We know they took El Generico, aka Sami Zayn. We know they took Kevin Steen, Chris Hero, Claudio. There were a lot of names that NXT took back in the day. So that's another factor that added to this. Then we got one from D's Games. Their continued lack of getting into a decent network didn't help them. So clearly they had network problems. And as admirable as it was, paying the whole roster throughout COVID was detrimental. I interviewed a dozen of ROH talents, and they all knew the writing was on the wall long before it went down. So it's clear that they didn't get a good network show. I saw someone, it might be in here, someone said they had a time slot that was 11 p.m. at night where they were. That's obviously not ideal. Where I stay, we did not get ROH at all. I live in South Africa. And then, of course, he says they paid their talent throughout COVID, which, of course, is very admirable, like he says. But business is business. Business is business. And that is why they struggled to make that comeback and actually never did until Tony Khan made the purchase. So that's interesting. They did good, but their good was to their detriment. So that's a tough one. That's a real tough one, but it's admirable. We then had one from Common Sense. Let's see if he's talking any common sense. This is a stupid engagement-seeking question. But when WWE NXT started cherry-picking their talent is when it no longer became viable to follow it. WWE never invested in the type of wrestlers or style. Okay, so clearly he lacks the common sense because he says a stupid engaging question, then gives me the engagement by answering the question. So common sense is probably not his strong suit here. I think he should change his name. But NXT started cherry-picking talent. We already spoke about this. I mean, Chris Hero, Claudio, Kevin Steen, obviously Kevin Owens, El Generico, obviously Sami Zayn. Who else was there? I mean, we can go a little bit later on. Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, Tyler Black, which was Seth Rollins. There's a ton of names in this list that went from ROH to NXT back in the day, starting from 2013 all the way till the late 2017 time. So that's a really interesting point from someone who lacks common sense. Next up, we had AO, and AO said the Cleare Era, and this came up quite a lot. A lot of shit went down during that time, not to mention several roster talent leaving and the pandemic increasing the blow, while employees staying at home paid to the point where they released everyone and it pretty much died when it was pretty much dead when Tony Khan brought it. Sorry for my bad reading. So yeah, it seems like a lot of it is down to the Cleare Era. And it seems like they did not really invest in the company. Yes, they paid the talent, which is admirable. We already spoke about that, but they did not invest in the company. And it feels like COVID was just the nail in the coffin, that final blow, like he says. And I suppose COVID was the final blow for a lot of promotions. And ROH may just be the biggest one that really didn't quite recover from COVID, or was never the same after COVID, because some would say it's in a good place now. And then we got something from Kyle here. Long before that, when Gabe felt overwhelmed and booked face Claudio to go over heel Hero every single time during their feud. This was also around the time they decided to give the belt to Jerry Lynn. Gabe gave up booking around then and felt drastically different. So Kyle is going way back in this, and he's taking it from a booking standpoint rather than business, which I quite like. It's a different idea. So he is complaining about the booking, Claudio going over Chris Hero the whole time, Jerry Lynn getting the belt. Look, I would have liked a bit more context here, but obviously it's X, it's Twitter. Maybe you guys can let me know about that one. What exactly went on here, and why were these decisions the wrong decisions? Let me know. We then had something from Jeremiah. Jeremiah says, honestly, it's both in my opinion. ROH sank because before Tony Khan, damn, English. Tony Khan bought it, they weren't promoting their brand enough. But it was my favorite wrestling show because everything was high quality. Tony purchasing it saved the show, but it feels like another Collision Rampage, which I don't like. That has been something I heard a lot. So people are saying that the show is good nowadays and that Tony Khan saved it. Well, some people are saying it's good, but Tony Khan saving it is what a lot of people are saying on X. And that is interesting because it's quite clear that we would have maybe had no ROH without Tony Khan. So saying that he was the downfall is probably not accurate whatsoever. Probably at all. And that's why I thought maybe it was unfair to just do a Tony Khan video here and rather hear the opinions of those who have watched the product more frequently than me. But it's interesting when he says it feels like another Collision and Rampage, because I do agree, but I'd even go as far as to say as the TV tapings feel like an Elevator Dark. The level of talent on there feel like an Elevator Dark. Mark Briscoe is not on the show enough. Athena is barely on the show, or not on the show enough. A lot of the talent aren't on the show enough to start with. When Eddie Kingston was champion, he was barely on the show. Maybe a couple weeks before the pay-per-view, but the pay-per-view happens every 4 months, 3-4 months. So the champions are barely on the show. The big names are barely on the show. So it does feel for me like an Elevator Dark, because, I mean, Elevator Dark is no longer a thing, so it had to go somewhere. But I hear the idea. Maybe Tony Khan's booking is just far too similar, and perhaps he needs someone else just to take over ROH as a whole. Like a Bryan Danielson, for example. Even Jerry Lynn, who's there. There's so many names, I'm sure, that could take over ROH with the guidance of Tony and turn it into something different than what AEW is. Just something to think about. We then had something from True Backlash, and he said, I was watching up until it went behind the paywall. I know there's some great stuff still going on there, but from Triller, okay, then he basically says where it is. Yeah, look, the paywall seems to be an issue. People aren't able to access the product very easily. And if you look at WWE in America, for example, it's on Peacock. So not only are you getting WWE content, but you're getting everything else that is on Peacock. I don't know what is on Peacock, but I know it's a streaming platform in general. It's not just wrestling. So when you pay your whatever fee it is, you're getting your money's worth. You pay for ROH Club, you can watch the content from way back, yes, but at the same time, you only get one show a week, 1 2-hour show a week with a lot of matches on it, and that's pretty much it. For that price package, I don't think that's necessarily worth it right now. So that seems to be the paywall is stopping people from really getting into the product right now, and from people interacting and talking about the product, because not everybody can just go see it. If, oh, this looked like a good thing that happened on ROH, let me go watch it. Oh damn, there's a paywall. You know, people are scared to go behind that paywall. It's a lot of money to commit to. We then had something from the Iron Fist, and this is quite a little thread, so bear with me. Good question. I followed ROH very closely since 2007. The major changes with ROH was when Gabe left in 2009. We spoke about that. Apparently, Sinclair coming in was not a good thing. So Sinclair bought them in 2011, and then obviously the NXT pressure 2013 to 2015. Now keep in mind 2017, 2018 was ROH's biggest years, and the number 2 promotion in US. That's a lot to take in. So he's saying when Gabe left, things didn't go great. Sinclair from their time they were there wasn't great. Then of course the influx of NXT. Then of course ROH had a big boom there afterwards with the Elite, and those are some big changes that happened. But he then goes on to say when AEW formed in 2019, 15 ROH roster members left for AEW. So like 30%, including some of the biggest names. ROH was very damaged by AEW starting. They were then slowly trying to adjust but made bad decisions. That is interesting. AEW, this is the first time we're hearing about the introduction of AEW being an impact onto ROH. Then he goes on to say, but they made changes and started trending in the right direction. Then COVID hit. We've already spoken about COVID. Decided not to run shows and ultimately sell the company. TK took over and changed the company. We already spoke about now Tony Khan's changes to the company. The new ROH isn't what made the ROH special. That is something I want to go on to now. We already spoke about how ROH feels like just another version of AEW. And what made ROH special back in the day was the small crowds, the intimate crowds, the great wrestling. I wouldn't say the low production, because production was alright, especially later on. I mean, I'm not saying it was great, but it wasn't to the level of it now. And sometimes, I don't know, something about that low production feel gives a different feeling to the show. And that is might be a stupid thing to say, but just something about that old ROH looked intriguing to me. They toured all over and put on great live wrestling events constantly for 20 years. The belts mattered, the matches mattered, and being in ROH mattered. Now it's AEW 2.0. The old ROH was like 40 TK ROH pay-per-views in 1 year. Damn, that's a strong statement at the end. The old ROH was like 40 Tony Khan ROH pay-per-views in 1 year. So with all this credit that people are giving for ROH being good now, I think the criticism here is that it's not consistent to the level of the old ROH. The amount of shows they put on back then, the amount of good wrestling they put on back then, it's quite clear that Tony Khan's wrestling or his good quality wrestling is inconsistent. We then got something from Angel, and he says, ROH thrived when there was no second TV alternative to WWE. People who long for those days, to me, don't know what they're asking for. Glad ROH now has a place as development for AEW to keep going. So he's saying AEW thrived when they were the alternative. AEW are now the alternative, and that just means ROH has to find its place somewhere else. That's probably just the sad truth. ROH was the alternative for those who were tired of WWE. AEW came on with better quality, better wrestlers, better production, better stories to a certain extent, and more consistent shows, and a very, very good TV slot. And that just killed off ROH, unfortunately. We then had something from Mose here, and Mose says, to be honest, I think ROH putting an emphasis on the elite and then losing them hurts a lot, especially when the start of AEW. They lost a lot of stars and weren't able to build back up after that, but COVID was the final nail in the coffin. So what I'm getting from this is ROH have rebound back a lot of times. They've lost Adam Cole, they've lost Roderick Strong, they've lost CM Punk, they've lost Samoa Joe, they've lost Bryan Danielson, they've lost all these names, but they found a way back. But this time, they couldn't. They lost the elite and they didn't find their way back. And that's possibly just due to COVID. Like, straightforward. And then Face Masks and Face Palms, weird name, just puts a picture of Jim Cornet or a gif of Jim Cornet. And I think that can tell you a lot about the show. Some people hate Jim Cornet. Some people really like Jim Cornet. I'm indifferent. I think he says some funny stuff. I think he says some stupid stuff and some really disgusting stuff. But it's Jim Cornet. Who really cares, to be honest? And I'd like to know more about Jim Cornette's booking in ROH, because he often talks about how bad the booking is now. And I want to hear what people thought about his booking then, without taking into account who he is. I don't want you to give me an opinion on Jim Cornette. I want you to give me a genuine, unbiased opinion about his booking. Take out the man and just tell me how his booking was. So, with that being said, that was what the people had to say about the downfall of ROH. And from what I think, the biggest problems are COVID was the number one nail in the coffin for them. The Elite leaving did not help whatsoever. NXT coming into play did not help at all, because big money came in that took their stars away. Then, of course, we had AEW starting, and that became the new alternative for WWE. We had the sale to Sinclair, which Sinclair did not put the money back into ROH. And then when it comes to Tony Khan, so post Tony Khan, feels like an AEW show. It's too similar to AEW in terms of booking. The stars are all over the place, as in they go from AEW to ROH, from ROH to AEW. The belts don't mean much of anything anymore. He's lost that intimate factor with the fans. That is what I've come to the conclusion that has led to the downfall of ROH, because some people would suggest there is no downfall. They had their biggest show. They had their latest pay-per-view, which I watched, Death Before Dishonor. Great pay-per-view, great matches. Athena versus, was it Trish Adora? Great match. Briscoe versus Roderick Strong. Great match. You know, there were some good matches on the card, and I enjoyed the card. But I'm still not going to pay that money to sit behind a paywall. So, yeah, it's a really, really tricky situation. And I think the first thing Tony Khan has to do is give the book to someone else. Let him do the booking. Let him bring in his ideas. Tony, you can focus on AEW. And that way we get a different feel to the show. Whether it's good or bad, Tony can guide him, but we get a different feel and different ideas coming to ROH. The second thing I would do, stay in this esports arena that you're in right now. Why? Because you build an intimate crowd, and that is what ROH lacks. ROH lacks that crowd that comes in week in and week out. So that is my opinion on ROH, and that is your guys' opinion on ROH on X. If you guys don't know, you can follow me on X at WrestleDrop, straight at Wrestle_drop, and I'll try and post more of these. And if you guys interact, we'll do more videos like this. So with that being said, hit that like and subscribe button. We would appreciate it so much, and you'll get more of this content from us. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Peace.